Hello everyone, my name is Ishan and I am the Science and Tech faculty at UPSCprep.com. So you all know that mains is around the corner and uh, Science and Tech is one of the essential portions of your mains GS3 paper. So we're going to try and simplify the preparation for you. What we are going to do is uh, we are going to look at the previous year questions, right? And we'll try and understand how to structure answers, right? How to structure those answers from the questions, right? We are going to look at the trend of questions, the trend and pattern, right? But I'm not going to discuss each and every previous year question because it will take a lot of time. Apart from that, the answers, the solutions to those questions are already there on the internet, right? You can just go to Google, type it out, search the answers, right? So those answers you can get it on your own. But what we are essentially going to focus is the structure, right? Plus, what I'll do is with every topic, we'll discuss one question, one new question, right, which can be asked, one new potential question that can be asked in this year's paper, right? So I think that is going to be more fruitful for us, right? There is not much benefit that is going to be derived from discussing answers to the questions that have been asked already. Yes, we'll benefit from studying the structure of those answers and we'll benefit from studying new questions on the same pattern. All right, so that is going to be the agenda and let's begin. So yes, you can see the agenda, the previous year questions, then discussion on pattern, discussion on areas of importance, what to study in the paper and how to structure your answer, right? Let's look at the breakup of several topics and the pattern of questions asked from all these topics in your previous years. So firstly, let's look at space technology. You can see that the questions that have been asked have been based out of Chandrayaan-3 mission, then manned mission, that is the Gaganyaan mission, IRNSS, that is the old name for NAVIC, right? Then question on space station, how India has a plan to build a space station and what are going to be the benefits that will happen because of it. Then James Webb Space Telescope. This is of course not a mission of ISRO, but because this is very important, still this is in news because it is giving us very important data, very important innovative findings that we could not gather from the earlier telescopes. So that is why the question itself, when it was framed, you will see in the previous years that the question itself revolved around the area of how James Webb is different from the earlier telescopes, right? Then there were questions on socio-economics, which means how space technology can benefit the poorer sections or how it can benefit in agriculture. All those kinds of questions also can be asked. But largely you can see the questions have been asked from your missions, different missions. All right. Then you look at biotech. So in biotech, there is one question on stem cell therapy that came long ago. Then you can see that largely questions have been asked about the benefits that biotechnology can bring to either the poorer sections or the farmers or to the biopharma, which means the medicines, right? So mostly the questions have focused on applications, meaningful applications, how you can apply biotech for the benefit of the poor, for the benefit of the agriculture sector, for the benefit of the medicine sector, right? All these type of questions have been asked, right? Then there was one general question on the achievements in research and development in the sector of biotech, right? So those kind of questions also we'll see in what way they were asked. Then you can look at questions on health. So the health related questions were frequently asked during the COVID times, when the question was asked on COVID-19 vaccine, then the question was asked on pandemic and the use of technology that can help in pandemic, right? Apart from that, question has been asked on antimicrobial resistance, then fixed dose combinations of medicines, right? Those kind of questions have been asked in the past years. Apart from that, there are questions related to IPRs, right, in your traditional medicine. So I have put them in the bracket of IPRs. You will see that, right? How can you protect your traditional medicine knowledge from Western medicine knowledge? Those are the questions related to IPRs, right? Then you see nuclear and nanotechnology. Very simple. They have asked question about India's program, both in nuclear and nano. What are the programs or missions related to these technologies, right? Then they have asked about applications of nanotechnology in a specific sector or nuclear technology. How can it benefit, right? Then they have asked about concerns of nuclear technology, right? All these kinds of questions have been asked. Then you look at communications and IT. Now here you will find that there are questions which are they are not as generic or as simple as the previous ones. Here you need to know what is server hosting. Of course, this was asked way back. Then you need to know what is a digital signature, or you need to know what 3D printing technology is, right? So you need to be familiar with these terms. So sometimes what happens is, in science and tech, you will find that there are questions which are very much doable, right? By doable, I mean that these are questions from the topics that everyone must be knowing from their general preparation, right? From their preparation of GS. Then there are certain questions which are very much fact based in mains. We have seen over the years that there are certain questions which are very much fact based. Here, if you have studied those topics, you will be comfortable with them, but otherwise you will find very difficult to go around these questions. So here your aim and objective in the paper should be to extract as much marks as possible. Because I'll show you certain questions where, even though those questions might be in the news or might have been sourced from current affairs, it might not be possible for us to know the exact technical details or to recall that in the exam hall, right? You might be knowing them, but recalling them in the exam hall or putting down in the question paper, in the answer sheet, is a different thing, right? So you have to extract as many marks from those questions where you know less, or you know nothing about, right? So here you can see server hosting. Now server hosting, why government had changed its policy on server hosting, that was one question. Then digital signature, what is it, right? Usually you will see that in Aadhaar. When you look at Aadhaar card, you will have those kind of things, right? Then 3D printing, very much in news always, and applications of 3D printing, how can it help? Those kind of questions were asked, right? Then you look at achievements. Now this is a portion, achievements and IPR, both of these are mains centered, which means that these are not part of your prelim syllabus, right? If you look at the syllabus of science and tech in GS3, right, you will find that achievements of Indians in science and technology is one of them, and intellectual property rights and issues arising from those is also one of them, right? So these are topics that are not that you won't usually study for your prelims, but you have to study them for your mains exam, right? So you can see that the questions here were based on MS Swaminathan, the guy who was related to Green Revolution. Then you can see this question, Bose-Einstein condensate. But this is a very tough question. In the year when it was asked, very few people could solve it. So this is what I'm talking about. There will be questions which might come as surprises, right? So here, because this was a very technical question, your job was to, if you know it, well and good, you can get good marks. Otherwise, you have to extract as many marks as possible. So we will see how we can do that. Then research is declining. This was a general question. Research is declining. So this is also one of the questions based out of this subsection, right? Then IPR, there was once a question on explaining general terms like copyrights, patents, right? Then there was a question on patent law. There was of course one Supreme Court judgment, that is why this question had been asked. Then traditional IPR, as I talked about, your Ayush medicines and your traditional medicines, right? Those are your traditional knowledge. So how do you protect it from biopiracy? How do you protect it from Western medicine? Those kind of questions were asked, right? Then there were certain questions that were related to environment, for example. So microorganisms, how can you build energy from microorganisms, right? So this was a question that was asked last year. Then a question on electric energy was asked, and a question on hydroelectric projects, run of the river hydroelectric power projects was asked, right? Then there were questions which were very generic in nature, like plant cellulose, how is it important, right? And what can we do with the plant cellulose? This question was asked last year, right? Then blue LEDs. Now this Nobel Prize winning invention was environmentally significant. That is why they had asked about blue LEDs and how is it helping in everyday life. Then one of the questions was just very general, how science is interwoven deeply in our lives. So you will find all these kinds of questions also in the exam, right? Then there are questions which were not fitting in any of the sections that we have seen till now. Those are miscellaneous questions. So S400, the S400 systems were imported from Russia for your defense requirements, and it was a very powerful defense system. So they had asked about the features of that system and how is it beneficial from other systems. Then there's a umpire review system, DRS system in cricket. So they had asked about cricket and umpire review system. It was back in the day when the system was newly introduced. Then they had asked about umpire review system, and one of the questions was on FRP composite materials. So FRP composite materials are again one of the advanced materials which are quite beneficial. So they had asked a question on that. So mostly I'd say that the trend for such questions, such questions which are extremely factual, right? You can see these questions or these which are extremely factual, or blue LEDs. You can say that they are not as frequently asked, but yes, last year a question on cellulose was asked. So you always have to be prepared to write something meaningful in the exam, right? In the exam you will have 20 questions in your paper, right? In 20 questions it is extremely difficult to know everything about those 20 questions, but yes, you should have good knowledge about 10-15 questions, right? Then you should have somewhat an idea about rest of the 2-3 questions, and the 1 or 2 questions that are left here, what you have to do is you have to extract as many marks as possible. Even if you don't know anything, you have to write something that the examiner will give you some marks, right? Even 1 or 2 marks, if you can score, it can make a big difference to your score, right? So let's go by each of the topics one by one, and let's look at the questions from space technology, and let's discuss the structure of these questions. Okay, so last year a question was asked on India's third moon mission. What is the main task? So you can see the first thing that they are asking you is, what is the main task of this India's third moon mission, which could not be achieved in its earlier mission? So obviously they are asking what could not be achieved in Chandrayaan 2, right? That you have to demonstrate. Then list the countries that have achieved this task. Alright, so second part of the question is list the countries which have achieved this task. Third part of the question is introduce the subsystems in the spacecraft, which means the subsystems or the payloads in the Chandrayaan 3 spacecraft, and explain the role of, now this is the next part of the question, explain the role of Virtual Launch Control Center at the Vikram Sarabhai Space Center, which contributed to the successful launch from Sriharikota. Alright, so how will you structure it? Obviously, it's very easy. When the questions are long like these, you should be relaxed, right? You should be relaxed, because if the question is long, They are giving you the structure on a platter. Like you can see in this question, first part of the question has to cater to main task. Second, list the countries. Third, you have to introduce the subsystems. Fourth, you have to explain the role of virtual launch control center. Right, and then you have to write the conclusion. So the 4 parts of the question have been given to you in a proper structured manner, and you have to proceed in that way. Right. So you have first you write the introduction, then you write main task, right? Then you write subpoints here. Then you write the name of countries, right? Then you write subsystems or payloads, and you write the subpoints. Then you explain the role of virtual launch control center, right? And then you can write the conclusion, right? So this way you have to proceed in these kind of questions. Launched on 25th December 2021, James Webb Space Telescope has been much in the news since then. What are its unique features? So again, directly they are asking what are its unique features which make it superior to its predecessor telescopes, right? So they are asking you to compare it to the predecessor telescopes like your Hubble, right? Like your Hubble telescope. What are the key goals of this mission, right? Next question is, what are the key goals of this mission? What potential benefits does it have? Again, they have given you the structure on a platter, right? You just write the introduction, then you write unique features, right? Then you write key goals, and you write potential benefits, right? Then you write the conclusion, right? So this way you have to structure these kind of questions, which is very easy. You can see that you just have to spot what they're asking and you have to structure it on your own. All right. Then you look at this question: what is India's plan to have its own space station, and how will it benefit our space program? Right. So here you can see that this is a one-line question, so you have to think about the structure. But because it's only a 10 marker, right? You do not have to write too much. So how will you proceed? Now in the introduction, you can write anything about India's plan to have a space station, or how is it, how India is moving towards developing its own space station. Or you can write about the space race, which is facilitating such developments, because many countries have their own space stations. The International Space Station is a collaboration of many countries. Then China is planning to build its own, right? Similarly, Russia is also saying now that it will build its own space station. So India, because of its policy of self-dependence, it wants to become self-dependent. So it is also planning to have its own space station, right? So here, how will you proceed in the structure? You can just write the intro, then what will you write? Then you will write about plan of India to develop space station, right? Here you can write about how one by one we'll proceed towards developing our space station by, we'll have first of all we are having our Gaganyaan mission, which will facilitate us to understand about how to survive in space and what are the technical challenges, right? Then we'll move towards having a permanent space station, right? So all these kinds of steps you can write. Then you can write about benefits that it will have, right? And then finally you can conclude. So this is the 10 marker. It's 10 markers, so even 2 subheadings are enough, right? 4 points, 5 points each will be enough for you. All right. Then let's move to next question. India has achieved remarkable successes in unmanned space missions, yes, including the Chandrayaan and Mars orbiter missions, but has not ventured into manned space mission, both in terms of technology and logistics. Explain critically. All right. So this you can see was asked back in 2017 before the announcement of Gaganyaan mission, right? So at that time, there were talks about India and why it has not ventured into space in the form of a manned space mission. So that is why the question was asked, right? Again, you will write an introduction, Then what are the subheadings that you will use? You will use first of all you will try and explain success of unmanned missions, right? So here you will just write about the examples such as Chandrayaan and Mars orbiter. They are already given. You can write about more examples over here. Then you can write about challenges of manned space mission. This is the main point of the answer. Challenges of manned space mission, right? So here they have asked you about challenges in the terms of technology and logistics both, right? So either what you can do is either you can divide this into two parts of technology and logistics, right? Or you can write in general, you can write the points, 4 or 5 points, but try and relate it to technology and logistics. So either you can write like this and have 2 points each for these, or you can just write 4 points concerning challenges of manned space missions, right? Then they have asked you to explain critically, right? So you cannot leave the answer at challenges, right? You cannot leave the answer as challenges. You have to write about the benefits also, right? Benefits of manned space missions, right? You have to write about the benefits of manned space missions, and then you have to conclude. Then you can write on conclusion, right? So this is how you have to proceed. You have to always notice these words where if they are asking you to explain critically, then you have to explain both sides of the answer. Okay. Then let's look at the next question. Discuss India's achievements in the field of space science and technology. How applications of this technology have helped India in its socio-economic development. Again, asked back in 2016. Just write an intro, then write about achievements, right? They have already asked you achievements, right? Then write about applications for socio-economic development, right? Applications for socio-economic development, right? Then you can write about way forward, and then you can conclude, right? Then what do you understand by standard positioning systems, precision positioning system in the GPS era? Discuss the advantage India perceives from it, the ambitious IRNSS program employing just 7 satellites. So this was a question, this was the NAVIC. Now it is called NAVIC. IRNSS is now called NAVIC. So first they have asked you about difference between SPS and PPS, right? Then they have asked you about advantage India perceives from its ambitious IRNSS program, right? So again you will write intro, then you will write about SPS and PPS, then advantage of IRNSS, right? Then way forward or conclusion, right? So let's discuss this question. What is recombinant DNA technology? Explain how it is helping in the benefit of health and environment sector. Right, so it should be very simple. First you start with defining recombinant DNA technology. It involves manipulating of DNA to create new genetic combinations, offering significant advancements in both health and environment sectors. Right. Now if you want, after this you can write about different techniques of recombinant DNA technology. Right. If you want, you can write about different techniques, deleting a gene or inserting a particular gene, inserting a combination of genes, all those things. If you want, you can write. but the question is focused on in applications in the health and environment sector, right? So you write about health sector first, production of medicines, vaccines, right? So insulin is a medicine which is produced by genetically modified bacteria. Then there are recombinant vector vaccines which are using this technology. Then you can cure genetic disorders, you can detect genetic disorders, you can personalize the treatments, right? And you can discover new medicines by studying the genetic makeup of different organisms. Yeah, you can understand the functioning of different genes, right, which can facilitate these two things, development of medicines and personalized treatments. All right. Then in the environmental sector, it supports use of GMOs to clean up pollutants. So you can use bacteria for degrading of oil spill. Then you can use GM crops for pest resistance and increase in yield, like BT cotton. Then you can enhance your biofuel production by using genetically modified yeast. There is a scope for reintroduction of endangered species. Example, cloning of the endangered northern white rhinoceros. Then you can manage waste, for example, using bacteria to detoxify radioactive waste. So you can see that there are different applications, but those applications become much more impactful if you are giving the examples. So in the exam, always remember that wherever it is possible for you, wherever you can do it, give the proper example. Whenever you give examples, you are leaving an impression to the examiner that you have understood every concept thoroughly, right? And you have studied more than people who are just writing applications, right? So it gives a proper depth to your answer and it leaves a good impression to the examiner. So you definitely are going to be awarded more marks for writing proper examples. Okay. Then you can write about challenges related to this technology. There are ethical concerns about genetic manipulation in humans. Then there is biosafety risks, right, by introduction of different genes. There is a stringent regulation, then public does not perceive it to be safe. Then there are IPR issues which lead to monopolies and restricted access to technologies, right? Then there is high cost involved for these technologies, and there is uncertainty about health and environment impacts, right? Then you can write this conclusion, general conclusion. All right, so in this way you can proceed with such type of questions. All right, let's move to health. So you can see that the questions on pandemic and COVID were asked back in the day, and a question was asked on basic principle behind vaccine development. How do vaccines work? What approaches were adopted by the Indian manufacturers to produce COVID-19 vaccines? Again, very simple structure. You just write the introduction, right? Then you write about principle of vaccine development, right? Then you write about working of vaccines, right? Then you write about approaches of Indian manufacturers, and then you conclude, right? Then you can conclude. It's simple structure, already given it to you in the question. Then COVID-19 pandemic has caused unprecedented devastation. However, technological advancements are being availed readily to win over the crisis. Give an account of how technology was sought to aid management of the pandemic. So you can see that the question has given you some statements about the pandemic and technology, but they are asking you about only one thing: how technology was sought to aid management of the pandemic. So it is a 250 word question. They are asking only one thing. It's not like you have to write 10-15 points on this one thing only. So how will you structure it? First you can write introduction, right? Then you can write about if you want, you can write about impact of pandemic also, but it's not necessary. But if you want, you can write about impact of pandemic, right? That will naturally flow to the next part, which is technology. How did technology help in the management of the pandemic? So you can again divide this use of technology for one for pandemic, right, which is the general management of the pandemic, like development of Arogya Setu apps, right, or your temperature thermometers, all those things. And the other thing can be how it helped people during the pandemic, right? By like things like video call and um, like all these things. Okay, internet, right? So you can divide, if you want, you can divide how technology helped during the pandemic. You can divide it into two parts. First is the management of the pandemic, and second is the people. Then you can write about issues due to lack of technology, right? Why are we writing this? Because it's a 250 word question. If you don't have content, you can complete your answers by writing about what were the issues that caused problems to people who were not having the technology. So things like digital divide. Not everyone could afford to attend online classes, right? Then you can finally write your conclusion. But please remember that although the answer is structured like this, the main crux of your answer, the main focus of your answer has to be the how technology has helped in the management of the pandemic. So this is the main part of your answer. So this should be most of your answer. About 60-70% of your answer should be this, right? And the rest should be very, very small. In fact, you can just write 3-4 small points. Then again, in the issues due to lack of technology, you can write about 3-4 small points. Okay. Then can overuse and free availability of antibiotics without doctor's prescription be contributors to the emergence of drug resistant diseases? Yes. So in the introduction, you directly write yes. Overuse and free availability can cause AMR. Then what are the available mechanisms for monitoring and control of AMR? Okay, critically discuss the various issues involved. So what you can do is, in the introduction you have clarified that yes, these are the causes. Then you can discuss different causes of AMR, right? Then you can write about mechanisms for control, right? And monitoring, control and monitoring. They are asking you about, always notice that they are asking you about both monitoring and control. So you will get points for writing both control and monitoring. Okay. Then you can simply write about way forward in your conclusion, right? What should be the way forward? You can write in the conclusion, right? Then you look at the next question. What do you understand by fixed dose drug combinations? Discuss their merits and demerits. Very, very simple. You just write about FDCs. You define them. Then you write merits. Then you write demerits, and you are done. Right? Then you write conclusion. Okay. So let's discuss one question. What are lifestyle diseases? Explain with examples. What are the steps taken by the government to reduce the incidence of such diseases? So what are lifestyle diseases? You just explain it in the introduction. They are non-communicable diseases caused by unhealthy lifestyle choices and habits. Underline this part, right? Then they are saying explain with examples. So you write about types of lifestyle diseases by using different kinds of examples. So cardiovascular, diabetes, respiratory, cancer, obesity. You can see that everywhere the example is underlined because the question is focusing on example, explaining with examples. Right. Then it is asking you about what are the steps taken by the government. So instead of directly jumping into the steps taken by the government, first you can write about concerns, because government is going to take steps because there are concerns, right? So what are those concerns? If you're writing that, your answer will look more complete. Alright, so you can write about concerns due to lifestyle diseases, increased morbidity and mortality, economic burden on the individuals and economies, reduced quality of life, pressure on healthcare infrastructure. Then you can write about steps taken by the government, that there is a national program for prevention and control of cancer, diabetes, cardiovascular diseases and stroke. National health policy has a target of reducing the mortality from such diseases by 25% by next year, right, by 2025. Then you can write about Fit India movement, promoting active lifestyle and sports, right? Then Eat Right India movement, which is FSSAI promoted. Then ban on tobacco and alcohol advertisements, initiatives for pollution control, school health programs, popularizing of yoga activities, right? You can also write about Ayushman Bharat, how it will help in the treatment for non-communicable diseases, right? and then in the conclusion you can link it to the SDG, good health and well-being. So in this way you have to proceed with such topics. Okay. So let's look at nuclear technology. With growing energy needs, should India keep on expanding its nuclear energy program? Discuss the facts and fears associated with nuclear energy. So again, structure is always going to be very simple. You write the introduction, right? Then you write about India's nuclear energy program. India's nuclear energy program. Alright. Then you write about benefits because of this program, which are the facts. Facts are the benefits. Then concerns. Concerns related to these programs will be the fears. They are asking about benefits and concerns. The words they are using is facts and fears, but what they mean is benefits and concerns. And then in the conclusion, you can write about your stand. Should India keep on expanding its nuclear energy program? Yes, right. So you can write that in the introduction also, or you can write that in the conclusion. Anywhere you find it suitable. Right. Give an account of the growth and development of nuclear science and technology in India. What are the advantages of fast breeder reactor program in India? Alright. Again, you will write introduction and you will write about India's program. Right. Growth and development of nuclear science and technology. Right. They are asking you to give an account. So they are essentially asking you about India's nuclear program, the 3-stage program. Right. Then you write about advantages of fast breeder reactors. Again, in the end, if you want to write about concerns related to this to the topic, you can write about that, and then you can write about conclusion. Right. Then we come to nanotechnology. What do you understand by nanotechnology and why is it helping? How is it helping in the health sector? So again, introduction, you definitely define what is nanotechnology. Right. Then you write about, if you want, you can further expand on your definition. If you're not satisfied with your introduction, you can further expand on your definition in the next subheading, which is like features of nanotech or principles of nanotech. Like you can give any such heading, and you can write 3-4 short points. But the main part is how is it helping in the health sector. So applications of nanotech in health. Here you have to write a lot of points. You can try targeted drug delivery and all those things, nanorobots, sensors. There are different points. You can write about applications of nanotechnology in health, and then you can write a conclusion. Right, that there are certain concerns, and then all those concerns should also be addressed. All those kinds of things. Okay, then why is nanotechnology one of the key technologies of the 21st century? Describe the salient features of India's government's missions on nanotechnology and the scope of its application in the development process of the country. Again, they are talking about nanotechnology and its applications and government missions. So very simple, you write introduction. Again, you focus on why is nanotechnology a key technology? Why is it a key technology? You write that. Then you write about features of India's mission. Right, features of nano mission. Right. Then scope of application. See, the structure is already given in the question, right? Why is nanotechnology one of the key technologies? First you have to write this, then you have to write about government's mission, then you have to write about scope of the application. Then you can finally conclude. Right. So it's given in the question itself. Okay, so let's continue in the next video. All the best and keep writing good answers.